Hello everyone, welcome to the Bigger Boat Podcast, the film podcast where we go through Steven Spielberg's back catalogue one by one. I'm Luke, as always, and I'm joined by a man on the run from crimes against podcasting, or grievous bodily harm.
Ouch.
If you will. It's Joey.
I think I'm arresting you for that.
That is one of my worst, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely staying.
I was actually quite pleased with it when I came off of it, but I think it's funnier written down than said out loud.
Yeah.
How are you, Joey?
I'm quite well. So this is our first one back from Christmas, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We don't usually tell you what sort of time it is because this is going to end up coming out around March, isn't it? But it was sort of our post-Christmas, post-New Year hiatus.
Exactly, yes.
How was the festive period for you?
Oh, it's very
non-dominational festive period for you.
It's very good. Been very ill. This is sort of my.
You've been ill for weeks and weeks and weeks.
This is like the 5th or 6th week. You can maybe even hear it in my voice still.
It is a bit sexy,
but I actually feel a lot better. It's just that the sexy voice is sticking around.
Okay, because you look awful
all year. Yeah, it's not over the last 5 or 6 years. That's right. It's just 5 or 6 years. It's not over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Actually, Joey was just showing me his Christmas present, which is a. Do you want to explain it? What it is?
Yes,
to the
my main Christmas present is called a SAD lamp, or an SAD lamp, and it's designed to sort of replicate daylight during the winter months.
For those who don't go outdoors.
Yes, so it's the ultimate cinema lover's gift. Because I just turned it on to show how bright it was, and it's like, my eyes!
It's pretty bad. But yeah, I guess if you're not going out at all, it gives you all the perks.
Exactly.
Of vitamin D, as opposed to friendship and social interaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, just watch Netflix, turn on the sad lamp. You've got a complete life there. How was your Christmas period?
Oh, it was very nice. Thank you very much. It was with both sets of families over Christmas, and it was really nice actually. It was lovely, exhausting, but very good. And I wasn't working much over Christmas. And it's the first Christmas where I've not either worked Christmas or New Year. I had both of them off.
That's really nice.
So, which was a real treat. What was the last film that you saw anyway?
Oh,
go on, embarrass yourself.
The actual last film I watched was Ghostbusters 2.
Okay. It's very good.
Because I, was a bit hungover after New Year's and stuff, so...
It's very important to get the right film when you're hungover, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Netflix doesn't have Ghostbusters 1.
Does it not?
In.
Okay.
It has the remake, the all-female cast.
Yes, yeah.
But I decided I want to see the original. I remember Ghostbusters 2 being even freakier.
Yeah.
When all that goo comes out of the bathtub and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny now. You remember when we were talking about the boo box in Hook? And
yes.
we're like, it's over so quickly.
Yes.
It's like, that's it.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of that experience. Like, oh god, it is quite freaky, but it's actually quite funny.
Yeah.
Whereas I just remember it being really, not traumatizing, but kind of just bizarre and unfunny at the time.
Sure. Okay.
Too bizarre to be funny.
Yeah.
But now it's just like, oh yeah,
but
it's really not that bad.
Okay. It made you laugh though, did it?
It did make me laugh. Bill Murray, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And he's introduced to Sigourney Weaver's baby, and she's like, what do you think? He's like, well, he's ugly. And smelly. I just like that reaction.
Excellent.
How about you? What's the last one you saw?
So I went a bit more highbrow, to be honest. So I went back and watched The Maltese Falcon.
Yes.
From 1941.
Yes, see, that was one that was screened for us at film school.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. He's a big influence on Chinatown.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's Humphrey Bogart is a private investigator.
Yeah.
And he is basically hired by a woman with, you don't quite know her intent, to find her sister and also find this statuette called the Maltese Falcon. And then a body count starts stacking up and he has to clear his own name. And it's one of those ones where I completely forgot that people used to talk like this in movies. They, hello, say, well, darling.
Yeah.
And it's so misogynistic. Get me a cup of tea, love, please.
Yeah.
Smacking them on the arse as they go through.
Yeah.
You can't quite believe it, but it's still really, if you forget all of that, it's still a lot of fun. And there's some really good lines in it.
Well, in film noir's defense, it's always the female or the femme fatale.
Yeah.
As how they've become to be known. They're actually quite strong, powerful women, aren't they? Even if they may play like a meek mask in order to get what they want.
I see what you mean. My counter argument to that is that there is always one femme fatale, and then there's a whole host of secretaries who are getting their arse patted and things like that.
Very true.
But there's like a line where this guy gets slapped, and he's like, "If I slap you, you'll thank me and you'll like it."
Wow.
No. What does he say? He's like, "When I slap you, you'll take it and you'll like it."
Oh my god.
No, not it was a guy who gets slapped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So but I just absolutely love that line. But I really liked it. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
You have to embrace that datedness, I think.
You do, yeah. You do absolutely have to. So that was my last movie. So as I alluded to in the introduction, we are talking about Minority Report today. I'm quite excited about it because I've only seen it once. I saw it at the cinema when it came out, and I've never revisited it again. Researching it, realised I'd completely forgotten about it, but how much I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
I actually bought the DVD.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did, because I do still watch it every now and again, every sort of 6 years or so. 6 years.
I mean, I think this could be one of my favourites that I've never revisited.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, it's up there with sort of some of the most underrated of Spielberg movies, because it does genuinely have some interesting ideas in it and things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's interesting because remember we mentioned, because our last film we watched was AI.
Yes.
Remember there was that whole section about where he goes through the red light district, which is very, very much like
Blade Runner. Yeah.
Which of course is based on a Philip K. Dick short story.
Yeah.
Or book.
Novel. It is a novel.
And so obviously, I wonder whether this sparked Spielberg's interest in Philip K. Dick's work.
Potentially, but I think Philip K. Dick. So Philip K. Dick is the guy who wrote in the 50s and 60s. I think a lot of these novels that eventually get turned into movies and TV series.
Yeah. So Minority Report is a short story.
It's a short story. Yeah. That sort of our vision about what sci-fi should be, I think, just comes from how influential Philip K. Dick was in formulating those sort of things.
Yeah.
Those sort of dystopic societies, dystopic futures are very much in the zeitgeist because of Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you read any of his stuff, actually?
No, I haven't.
No.
It was one of those things where I've always planned to.
Yeah.
And there are people who absolutely love him, aren't there? But I've just never got around to it.
I actually went into Waterstones to try and find some of his short story collections, just so I could say at some point during this podcast, I'm just going to get my dick out. And then I realised when I was about to buy it, it's like, you're actually going to pay money to make a bad dick show on a podcast that no one really is going to listen to or like. So I didn't.
That's true.
But
you don't normally make the statement, you usually do it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it would be ironic if my penis was also out at the time. So. Just put that away.
Couldn't see it anyway.
So how do we move on from this? It's quite nice and it's quite good. I think it's a good palate cleanser because now Spielberg going back to sci-fi. I know with AI and then Minority Report.
Yeah.
The sort of the genre that made him. But however, it does have a different inflection now. Whereas there is that childhood naivety at the beginning of Spielberg's career. Now we're entering a period of time in Spielberg's career, the noughties, where things are a bit more politically charged.
Yeah.
And everything sort of has a message, especially like the messages of Minority Report about free will and deprivation of civil liberties, especially in the wake of 9/11.
Yeah.
A lot of his films are now coming out. So we've got like... What will come out of this? So you've got Minority Report, Munich as well.
Yeah.
Terminal, War of the Worlds as well. All very much sort of dystopic views about...
Yeah, it's not all sickly sweet. It's definitely all starting to get very...
Yeah. Well, I think that there's definitely some sentimentality there as part of it, which is just very Spielberg-y. But, he's trying to say something about, preventative detention and things like that in this film. The assassinations from Munich, doomed apocalypse in the future with War of the Worlds, and about immigration with The Terminal.
Yeah.
It's definitely got a political message, drives behind each one.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a line in even Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull where he goes, Indiana Jones goes, I barely recognise this country anymore, because it's at the height of the Cold War.
Right.
There are a lot of political undertones to his filmmaking now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was also made... Because this was actually made before 9/11, wasn't it?
Yes.
But released shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
So it became very, very prescient at the time. And also around the Patriot Act, which came out around then. So deprivation of liberty was hugely pertinent at the time.
Yeah. And I feel like we could end up talking about this before we actually see the movie. So do you think this might be a good time to...
Shall I do a quiz for you first?
Oh yes, why not?
And then we'll go watch the movie. So this quiz is called How Well Do You Know Your Dick? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the names of either a Philip K. Dick novel or short story, and you have to tell me the film it was adapted into.
All right, I'll see.
Okay. It starts off quite easy and then it gets quite hard. Okay.
It's always the way.
So these are the soft questions. So the first one is more of an easy one. It's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Very good. The next one, which was a short story. We Can Remember It For You Wholesale.
Is that Total Recall?
It is Total Recall. Very good.
I've only seen Total Recall once, and I can't remember very much about it. But yeah,
I love Total Recall.
It's quite good.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I remember that one with 3 breasts being
both
turned on and off at the same time.
She's pink as well, isn't she?
Yeah, she looks a bit like doesn't she look a bit like the one-eyed woman in Futurama? Or maybe
Leela.
Maybe they've inspired each other. I don't know.
Okay. Let's move on from your sexual nightmares. Number 3, The Adjustment Team.
The Adjustment Team? I'm not going to get that.
It's actually quite a straight one. It's The Adjustment Bureau.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that one?
No. I've heard of it, but I've never...
Matt Damon and... was it Zooey Deschanel? Or... No, it was Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. Number 4, The Golden Man. A short story.
The Golden Man?
I'll give you a clue because this is difficult. This was a 2007 or 6 film with Nick Cage and Julianne Moore.
No, I won't know it.
So it's called Next.
Next.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't at all.
Okay. No, nor do I.
Next.
Number 5. So last one. The Second Variety, which was another short story. And this was a film in 1995.
No, I won't get it.
So that was a film called Screamers.
Oh,
sort of horror movie. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, that sort of rings a bell.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't seen it.
I think it's like there's like a war, and one side has developed self-replicating robots who detect your heartbeat. So as soon as they hear you, they sort of scream and then kill you.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So you got 2 right.
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5 ain't bad. So should we go watch the movie?
Sure. Yes, I think we should do that because I think we could get caught up.
Yes,
talking about things before we watch it.
Yes, all right. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Just so you know, remember we will be talking about spoilers when we come back from from watching the movie. Minority Report is available on some streaming services. It is available on HBO Go if you have that, but it's not available on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu that I could see.
All right. See you shortly.
Bye.
Right, we are back.
We are back from watching Minority Report.
I knew you'd say that.
As always a choice.
Yeah, always a choice.
Yeah, so we're back from watching it, and I really enjoyed that. How was that for you?
Yeah, really good fun.
Yeah.
It's a nice mixture of intellectualism and fun, I think.
I think it's so difficult, isn't it, to get that balance right between the two.
Yeah.
A lot of films which try it are either too actiony and not really thinky enough, and some end up being too cerebral and end up being a bit boring.
Yeah, but it becomes more like an essay, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Rather than a piece of entertainment, which ultimately it is.
But this blends the two really, really well.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
It's enough to make you think about what's going on, and it's relevant to some emotional depth as well too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Some character development.
In case people haven't been watching along, shall we summarise the plot?
Yes, I think we should, because it's quite complicated.
It does get a bit complicated.
To explain. It's easy when you watch it, but...
Essentially, what happens is this is a future world. It's set in 2054. The rules are there's a pre-crime department, which are a police department set in Washington, D.C., led up by Tom Cruise's character, John Anderton. And I can't hear that name without thinking of Gladiators.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. Okay.
Although it's John Anderson, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Is it a Scottish...
You'll go my first whistle. Yeah. So anyway, John Anderton, no relation, heads the pre-crime department where these people called precogs have the ability to see murders in the future.
Yes.
And it's their responsibility to stop it happening. And this is all going very well until they predict that Tom Cruise's character is going to kill someone he's never heard of before in 36 hours. And he's got to find out what happened and clear his own name.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the premise of the movie.
Yeah. And along the way, there's other character developments. We know he has a broken family.
Yeah.
And that he's divorced from his wife, or separated from his wife. He's lost his son.
Yeah.
The important part of the setting as well, I think, is that they haven't rolled out pre-crime nationally, have they?
There is a big vote.
There is a big vote which is going to happen, which becomes increasingly associated with sort of the power which are in charge of pre-crime.
I'd actually really encourage you just to go watch the movie if you haven't seen it yet, because if we explain all the twists and turns and things, it's gonna end up being a bit of a boring podcast.
There's sort of 5 or 6 big storylines which all intertwine.
So
it is quite.
Let's talk about the screenwriting to start off with.
Okay.
Because the juggling act between getting the right characters, getting the right structure of the movie. Because the thing that I think works the best in this movie is the actual structure of it.
Yes.
Because it starts off, in order to get a sci-fi being believable, people have to know the rules of the world, don't they?
Yes, it's very important.
They have to understand, this means that this would happen.
Yeah. Do you know, this is not really a sideline, it's actually exactly on your track. You know how the first 10 minutes, or 15 minutes actually, is kind of its own story?
Yes.
In very much the same way, we see the last 10 minutes of an Indiana Jones.
I've exactly the exact thing down. That's what I was getting to.
It's the end of a previous episode.
Exactly.
Which then eases us in nicely to the rest of the story, because it's weirdly connected.
Exactly. Like Indiana Jones or Bond movies, they do this. They have one story that they tell over a 15-minute period, and it leads on. It sets the rules for going in.
Yeah.
And then in this, like you said, first 15-20 minutes, they're solving a crime. That's about a murder that's about to be committed, and you see Tom Cruise. You see how the whole process of the precogs work, and you see the process of how they work it out how to solve the murder.
Yeah.
And then after that, they set there's a public information film, isn't there, where they tell you about the vote that's going to happen. They're encouraging the viewer or the population to vote yes for pre-crime.
Yeah.
And that again sets you the motivations for a lot of the characters later on down the line, and informs their decisions. But having a world that's so complicated and rules that are so important for the structure of the story, for it to work and go so seamlessly from one to the other through the story at a very quick pace, but still work as a narrative and still be able to interject action sequence in there as well.
Yeah.
It's it's extremely well done.
It is.
Yeah.
You don't even think about it, I don't think, until afterwards, and you're like, there was a lot going on in there.
Because the surprising for an action movie, there's a lot of talking in it.
Yes.
Isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a philosophical movie, there's a lot of action in there as well.
Yeah, very true, yeah.
They've managed to space it out really nicely.
Yeah. Essentially, there's quite a political agenda going on. There is... it's film noir, very film noir-ish, the way it's lit and stuff, but actually breaks quite a lot of the rules.
Yes.
When it comes to film noir storytelling, because we know a lot of the conventions now.
Yeah. Why don't you, because you're the film guy, why don't you take us through some of the film noir rules? Is that a good time to do that?
Yeah, we could do that.
Because I also see that on your bookshelf you've got a book on film noir.
Oh yes, I do.
Itself.
Yes, there it is.
It's black and white, as per.
Film noir is it sort of came out of in the 40s. It's associated with sort of dystopian, very downbeat films, very hard-boiled sort of Raymond Chandler novels. Yes. Were then turned into usually films starring like Humphrey Bogart.
So The Big Sleep was a Raymond Chandler one as well, and a famous John Huston film. Wasn't
exactly.
It?
Yeah. So they all talk to their dames sort of like this.
Like the multi-sparkling virtue I talked about in the beginning.
Yeah. And then it's become sort of a cliche, but there's always shots of rooms being lit from the outside through Venetian blinds.
Yeah.
Because the connotation is always that it's a doomed anti-hero is your main character.
They're part in light, part in shadow, that kind of thing.
It's also supposed to pre-predict sort of the ending that that it's doomed. They're either going to go to jail.
Yeah.
Like prison bars. They're trapped within the confines of their particular story.
Yeah.
The world is out to get them, etc. And then they've sort of made the femme fatale famous.
Yeah.
They've since gone off and sort of made their own genre, things like Basic Instinct and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
Where, you have Sharon Stone, sort of a certain amount of sort of entrapment on men and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But and that's one of the rules which this film completely disregards. Some of the women are fairly powerful.
Yeah.
There's a wise old woman. Agatha, is the key to the precog. She's the smartest of the three of them. But the wife, although she proves herself to be smart at the end, is not at all a sort of a femme fatale, controlling, manipulative person, is she?
No, she doesn't have much to... She's one of the things that doesn't really have that much to do in it.
Well, that's what makes it odd.
Yeah, that's true.
Towards the end, is suddenly she's promoted.
That is true.
In terms of story importance.
I will come back to that.
We will come back to that.
Yeah.
And so basically, now we sort of do like... you may have heard the term neo-noir.
Yeah.
So neo just sort of meaning new.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a reinvention. So a lot of Christopher Nolan films, so for example Memento, is what you describe as a neo-noir.
My favourite example of that would be Brick. Rian Johnson's first movie.
Yes, that is very much.
And which is one of my favourite movies. It's brilliant. And then the other one that I really like sort of tries to infuse that with comedy. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
I really like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
With Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
Which is a very, very funny, I think it's Shane Black, but neo-noir set. Has got a very sort of 40s, 50s feel to it, but set in Monday and absolutely hilarious.
Yes. So those all sort of work on... In fact, it's quite ripe for sort of spoofing in a way, because we do know... Whether you know it consciously or not, you know the tropes. You do know the tropes. You've seen them before.
Yeah.
LA Confidential is sort of a nice mixture of all of them and sort of modernising them a little bit.
That's true.
All of that kind of stuff.
One of the main features as well I think about with film noirs is there's a final scene in a ballroom or all the main characters together and the plot is explained. And they're like, well, this is what happened, as the detective tells the suspecting, and then they go, and it was you all along.
Yes.
And this happens very much in Minority Report as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah. It's that's quite a Sherlock Holmes-ish thing, but in a bit more of a disguise.
Yes.
Because usually, Sherlock Holmes works on the fact that he doesn't reveal what's going on in his own head, deducing stuff. It's only at the end he explains that that's how he got there.
Yeah.
Whereas, like in a film like this, actually all the clues are there if you want to find them. It doesn't take as much thought as a Sherlock Holmes movie.
And it's interesting you mentioned that because you said it's very much like Sherlock Holmes written by Arthur Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie as well, very much, and Dashiell Hammett, which are the names of the three precogs: Arthur, Agatha, Dashiell.
Yeah. They had thought. They might be embroiled in a mystery.
What a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
You said this film breaks the rules of film noir quite a bit. And do you think that's because of its fusion with sci-fi and action? Or have they made some conscious choices to do something that skews the genre slightly?
Not particularly. I think from the beginning, I feel like they tried to mash it up.
Yeah.
And then went through it, and then reading it, perhaps sort of afterwards, I imagine Spielberg was like, oh, this might be a good chance to get some of those film noir elements in.
Yeah. Rather
than the other way round. I don't think he set out to make a film noir.
Yeah. I've done a bit of reading about the inception of it, and I think I might query that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think he did set out the task to one of the screenwriters, Scott Frank.
Yeah.
To write a detective novel.
Right.
To write a detective screenplay.
And let's not forget, like we kind of said in the intro, this is coming off the back of AI.
Yes.
And there was that big Blade Runner sequence in AI.
Yeah.
And Blade Runner is very film noir-ish.
Yeah.
Including with femme fatales
as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff. It's very much a big influence on this, I think.
The initially rights to Minority Report were optioned as an intended sequel to the Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall in the early 90s. And then the guy who made Speed and Twister, Jan de Bont, who's got a producer credit on this, he was going to direct it and hired a guy called John Cohen to develop the script. And he is the one who sort of had the baseline of the structure of the movie. So he had quite a few action set pieces. He also came up with a lot of the gadgets, which I'd like to talk about separately because I think they're very good in this.
Yeah.
And he came up with a lot of the gadgets and the bare bones of the structure. Eventually, it just took a while to develop, and Tom Cruise read this script and then gave it to Spielberg, and Spielberg took over, but asked the guy Scott Frank to develop the sort of the skeleton script by John Cohen. Now, it was interesting he asked Scott Frank, because Scott Frank had written Out of Sight, beforehand.
Outside is really good.
Yeah, the George Clooney, Jennifer Lopez film. Who did that? Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah, Steven
Soderbergh.
Yeah, but it's Elmer Leonard's book, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So apparently, I read an interview with Scott Frank about this. He didn't really want the job. He didn't think he couldn't really see how to develop Minority Report into a detective story, because I've not read you said you haven't read the actual short story itself.
No, I've heard this, but very much kind of just an outline of a pre-crime, stopping crime before it happens.
Exactly.
It's basically as much as you get from the
It's like
story.
ideas. There's not even that many characters. You've got the main character, and then it's sort of like a philosophical idea that's spread over a number of pages.
Yeah.
Rather than a plot or a clear narrative. But he decided, you know what? I've got a lot of, he said himself, I had a lot on my plate at the time. I had loads of scripts developed. I thought, you know what? Spielberg's asked me to do this. I'll do something, but I'll do something he won't want to see. So he said he'll make lots of a mystery within a mystery.
So he kind of fused a few scripts together, do you think?
No, I didn't.
Other ones that he'd sort of worked with? Or?
Apparently Spielberg had told him he didn't really like mystery movies. So he said, well, I'll just do a mystery within a mystery. So I'll do double the mystery. I'll make the hero really flawed, a drug addict, and that sort of thing. And he won't like that. And then I'll make it really talky as well. And then he won't like that. And then I can move on. I'll submit an outline based on that stuff. Yeah. And Spielberg loved it. He was like, this is exactly how I see the character. So Scott Frank was like, oh, right.
So this helps to explain why this film is really quite un-Spielbergian in some ways. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think it did, and a lot of that talky philosophy stuff comes from, Philip K. Dick's original, but also what Scott Frank had injected into the actual script itself.
Yeah.
But a lot of the more actiony set pieces, I think, and the structure of it came from John Cohen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was quite an interesting way it developed. It does feel like a fusion, doesn't it?
It does.
But really works.
Yeah.
Really works. Which is surprising for a lot of things which feel like a mishmash, because these mesh together so well, whereas a lot of things feel really bitty if they are formulated like this.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of a criticism we had of AI, was that it felt almost like
You're absolutely
four
right.
separate sections joined together.
Yes.
And so I don't know if he sort of essentially took a very similar world almost and sort of like reworked it.
Yeah,
it seems much more refined in Minority Report. Yes. Much more thought out, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or apparently I read that Spielberg put together a conference in a hotel to do with recent, sort of, in quote marks, sort of recent technology. It was where technology could go within the recent 50 years,
Yeah, apparently it was a 3-day conference. I'd love to have been invited to something like that.
It would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been really cool. Like just to think about where realistically the future will be in 2054.
Yeah.
And they've got loads of people, so people from technology, I think they've got philosophers, they've got apparently people futurists. I don't know who they are or if that's a real job, but apparently they were there as well.
Yeah.
They were just there for the buffet. And they came up with a Bible, didn't they? Like this 80-page book, which the cinematographer Janusz Kaminski and Alex McDowell, the production designer, uses their sort of Bible of how should I create the aesthetic of the movie, and what rules should this movie follow.
Yeah. And then sort of always, as is the way, science fiction predicts these things first and then it comes into being. So
Absolutely.
For example,
the
retina scanning, and then you have the adverts as he goes into a Gap store and they talk to him personally. Now we're starting to see that when you watch things online. If I watch something on All 4, whatever, because I have to sign in.
Yeah.
I remember the day, and it's probably only a year ago. I remember going into work and saying, I've seen the future.
Yeah.
Because the ad, I think it was for Ben & Jerry's ice cream actually, and there was a Ben & Jerry's sign behind Tom Cruise when he was in the shopping mall actually. It said, Joe, you could do with an ice cream right now or something. Yeah. And I was like, that is horrible. That is straight out of AI.
That is horrible. He said, licking his Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I don't want it anymore.
I'm never going to fall for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's straight out of Minority Report.
You even hear nowadays, like, you're talking about something in your private conversation, but with your phones on or something like that, and then something will get advertised to you.
I know.
Which is similar.
I don't like that.
I don't like it at all. But this was even happening, I remember on the first few days of Facebook. Remember when Facebook started having adverts? This is when we were at university or just after.
Yeah.
This genuinely happened to me. You know, you had those like sidebar of adverts.
Yeah.
And for me, it was generally asking about women, question mark, women, until a point when it, and then clearly I've been single for so long, it was like, men?
Wow.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I remember making one joke, which was, remember when we recorded with Eliza and I said, my favourite teen movie was Teen Wolf.
Yes, yeah.
And so I put, after I'd had a bad day or something like that, sort of as a joke on my status on Facebook, Teen Wolf makes it all better. And then for the next sort of 2 months, I got things like...
hair removal cream.
I got like wallets and T-shirts with Teen Wolf on.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't get rid of them.
Did you buy any?
I bought a lot.
I don't like it, but it works.
Yeah.
But there's other like so I wrote down some other sort of technologies that have come in, you know, or coming in very soon. Driverless cars. You know, that seems so science fictiony, but it's where things will head.
Yeah.
They do talk to like an Alexa or a Siri, don't they?
They do. Yeah. He has to turn his lights on, doesn't he?
Exactly. I mean, even the screen that they use to process the pre-crime and go through all the footage.
Yeah.
They're just using these gloves, aren't they? And like a composer, often to orchestral music, he's swiping right and he's swiping left on screens.
Yes.
And, you know, that's essentially what we
use
It's how we use our iPads or our tablets and things like that. And even things like these surveillance drones and things like that they, you know, it's not... So even the spiders are not that far off from drone technology, are they? Yeah. No.
I do wonder about those spiders, though. They do seem a little bit more futuristic than the rest of it. They seem like they're straight out of War of the Worlds. They look a lot like They do look exactly like War of the Worlds. Yeah. So, those are a little bit more futuristic, but it works so well that it does all seem within the realms of possibility. Yeah, it doesn't distract, but I just remember thinking... Because there's not that much... It doesn't feel like there's that much CGI monsters or gadgets or things. No. A lot of it feels very practical. Yeah. That they sort of stuck out a little bit for me, but it's fine.
I said I would mention the gadgets because often in films where they're using a gadget, especially like Bond movies or something like that, you know, it's very much a Chekhov's gun situation where they say at the beginning, oh, this is this gadget, this does this. You hope you won't be needing that at some point. Exactly. And then at some point it will get them out. But they have loads of gadgets in this, but they don't make a big deal out of it. They are there. Yeah. And I really like the sick sticks. Yes. The ones where you get hit and they vomit. Yeah. It's just random stuff like that. Yeah. It's easy to explain. It's actually very similar to how a taser works. Isn't it? Yeah. But it's just like that. And like those pulse guns that they don't really make much of a deal about it. Yeah. It's just the rules, and you believe the production design, and you believe the environment they create so much that you will accept whatever they want to introduce in there. Yeah, without it feeling like they're sort of shoehorning the plot at you. Yeah. It's just very much, just in the moment, isn't it? It doesn't feel like, it's going to come back to be useful later or anything like that. So. That's such a hard thing to do in movies. So I really liked it. Yeah.
While we're talking about that sequence, is it just me that thought it was very James Cameron? It was almost like one of them could be the Terminator.
It did feel like that.
When they're in what we're talking about is that scene in the car building factory. Yes. And then there's even one bit where Tom Cruise, on the inside of the car as it's being manufactured, is thrown against the sort of the chassis of it, if you like. Yeah. And those spikes come through. Oh yeah. Very Indiana Jones. Yes. The way it just misses him, and
exactly. And in exactly the same sequence, there's something that sort of comes down, and he just misses his hand. Like almost like you can see a Federer on the other side that he almost grabs. Yeah. Yeah, it is very much like that. Yeah. Shall we talk about some other scenes that we really liked throughout it?
Sure. Yeah.
I'd like to discuss the ending at some point, but shall we go through some scenes we liked? So we're doing a bit more of a narrative structure.
Yeah. You do realise you've just revealed that you didn't like the ending by default there, but yeah.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay.
You're trying to predict the future, Joey. And you're wrong.
Doesn't mean it wasn't just about to happen.
What were the other scenes that you liked that stood out for you?
I liked... Let's talk... Well, I'll talk about this in terms of, like, from Spielberg's point of view. It was nice to see him do something really different to what he normally does, like... Do you remember you told me that... Remember there's that Terry Gilliam quote where he talks about he doesn't like Spielberg because he wraps everything up. Yes. Based on even like the first sequence, it's just a random set of images, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The Howard Don't Cry bit, and you just see scissors and you just see eyes and all that stuff. You're like, that's
talking about the first murder, which they stop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very loose filmmaking compared to how structured Spielberg usually is, and all of that stuff. It feels like a slightly more risky way of Spielberg making it.
I'm not sure I agree.
Yeah?
I think that could fit in with Gilliat, that it's all nicely neat and set out, because I think what he would have done is he may have taken the murder as it was and then just sliced up bits of it and put them disparately, and then so all the bits were there, the jigsaw is there, they're just the pieces a little bit, rather than there are no missing pieces at all, everything fits together
very
nicely.
True. That's very true, yeah.
So I think, I said we wouldn't talk about the ending now, but the ending does feel very Spielbergian.
Definitely, yeah.
It's the most Spielberg thing I've seen in my life.
Yes.
The scene that I really liked was, I really liked the psychic chase scene. So Tom Cruise is fleeing with Agatha through the shopping mall, and she's managing to evade all the cops that are trying to get after him through seeing things slightly into the future.
Yes.
So she's running through. She says, "Grab an umbrella," and you don't see the reason for that. She tells someone to stop to get in the way. Then she manages to position himself in front of some balloons so she can't be seen.
Yeah.
And even though they're standing still, it seems very frantic, and they're still being chased.
Yeah. And
the shots of Agatha and just like draped over Tom Cruise, it's shot absolutely beautifully. It's just really well done. You can't really see you can see they're constantly connected. Yeah. Like they're one person. It's just really well done.
Yeah.
I really like that.
It is very well done.
Yeah.
Graphically, I really like the scene, when he's got the bandages on his eyes and all of that stuff. I quite like the setting of that and the way him being in the bath. But there's a problem I have with not necessarily that scene, because that's the point where he's hiding from those spiders to read his retinas. But before that, Spielberg has done this a couple of times, and he did it in AI.
Yeah.
Do you remember I said in the first sequence, it's almost like set up to be like a horror film?
Yeah.
I feel like that eye surgeon is set up to be a much sinister character than is actually needed for the story.
Yeah. But then he's set up as being a sinister because he Tom Cruise put him away previously.
Yeah.
And then he does the surgery as planned.
Exactly.
He's like, it doesn't go wrong.
Exactly.
It goes exactly as it... Yeah. Which seems a bit odd for the setting.
It does.
I mean, the setup of it is horrific. And
you're like, oh God, what's he going to do? And then it turns out he's going to do a perfect job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He should be back on the medical registry, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit odd.
Just needs a bit more bedside manner is what he needs.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. That scene... Although it was effective in the way it freaked me out. I remember, because I just don't like eyes anyway.
Yeah.
I think most people don't like eyes. And this is a very eye film, isn't it?
It's
constantly themes of eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That made me really uncomfortable. Just the bit where he sort of inverts his lids and opens his eyes using that machine. Yeah,
which is, of course, a Clockwork Orange reference.
It is a Clockwork... Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I didn't think of that, but yeah.
Well, I think initially the big contraption, which pulls his face taut... That looks very similar to... Is it called City of Lost Children?
Okay.
The same director as... Is it the same director as Amelie?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
You had a copy when we lived together. Yeah. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. And then when they literally pin his eyes open, that's straight out of Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
We talked about the
Kubrick
connection.
Yeah. But I completely agree. I don't know why... It did feel that he escaped with a lucky one, even though his eyes had been removed, and he had some new eyes of what was it, Mr. Yakamoto?
Yes.
It felt like he had a very lucky escape.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
We were saying in that same scene, there were some movies playing in the background.
Yes.
And I really want to know what those movies are.
I'm sure we can find out.
Yeah.
One of them looked a bit like Robert Mitchum, the actor with the...
Okay.
On. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, they were filmed noir.
There were two, and one looked like a Zorro movie as well, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
If you do know what they are, let us know.
While we're talking about stuff we like and things that are very Spielbergian, maybe we could just talk very briefly about themes.
Yeah, sure, we can talk about that.
So sort of eyes are set up very early on, aren't they? And the concept associated with them of sort of seeing into the future.
Yes.
And then they're also like the... something to do with change, aren't they? Like, if you change your eyes...
Yes.
They help you evade your so-called sort of like predicted future.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. predetermined future.
Exactly. I think as well as sight is very, very important. And the drug dealer at the beginning says to Tom Cruise, "In the land of the blind, the one with one eye rules.
The one-eyed man is king." Yeah.
One-eyed man is king. Exactly. And I think that refers to the precogs, who have the extra eye, you could say, the internal eye, where they can see the future. And they are set up as like they're referred to almost as deities, aren't they? Like they could rule the world. They reside in a place called the Temple. They dictate the futures of humankind.
Yeah.
They know what will happen in the future. And if one of them should use their power in a certain way, they could do anything they wanted to, couldn't they?
Yeah.
So there's that inherent power behind what they can do, which is why when it's transferred, and that power is transferred to to sort of a totalitarian government, it sets up a very dystopic sort of feel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's all sort of under the guise of keeping you safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a contradiction in terms, isn't it? Like, because they're taking away your liberty, really, your choice to kill someone if you wanted.
Exactly. And also, whether they say at the end, if you knew your future, you would have that choice.
Yes.
So why would you not let other people know their future to potentially prevent the murder?
Exactly. Wouldn't it be a lot easier just to send a letter through the door? By the way, we think you're going to do this. And so now you're aware of it, like Tom Cruise in the movie.
Exactly.
He doesn't do it by the time the alarm goes off on his watch.
You get advertised. Have you thought about killing your wife?
Yeah.
Call.
Don't know how to break this to you, Howard, but your wife is having an affair, firstly. Secondly, you might try and murder her. Howard, don't
Number
cry.
3, do you fancy an ice cream?
Yeah, so while we're talking about this and we're staying on the theme, so should we maybe talk a bit about the sort of concept of the movie, of the pre-crime aspect, and some of the problems I sort of had with it?
Go for it.
Even right from the beginning, right when we're talking about the Howard maybe stabbing his wife with the scissors because she's having an affair sequence. And we've already talked about, Tom Cruise is almost like conducting to music and interpreting the images that are coming through. Basically, almost like a series of sort of still images, almost, which he sort of places together.
Like a jigsaw puzzle.
Like a jigsaw puzzle, and can work out that, there must be a roundabout because there's a child on one side and then a merry-go-round is something on the other.
It's just off the A34.
The fact that it's open to that amount of interpretation, knowing that even right now the law is, unless you can convict someone
without reasonable doubt.
Yeah, without reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Irrefutable evidence. This person had intention to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give a not guilty verdict, don't you?
True.
The fact that it's open to that amount of interpretation means it couldn't really happen, but...
So your point of this is the fact that I think you'll find that predicting the future won't really happen.
Yes.
And if it does, it's no brace for a judicial system.
Yes.
But it is... That's why this movie works, though, is because, yes, when you think about it, obviously, but you can see how people could use it by making the world grounded in reality, and you can see things just a little bit further into the future, but you can still see what is familiar to us.
It's how you can manipulate that sequence of events.
Absolutely, yeah.
To your advantage, which is exactly what the baddie in this does.
Yeah, and it's exposing the nature. The whole theme of this, I think, is the nature of free will.
Yeah, versus determinism.
Versus predeterminism, exactly. Yeah. How much of us is our own choice. And we mentioned that briefly with what we said beforehand. But the other thing is, I think, the concept of the greater good, which is what the villain of the piece, who in another theme you could say is a bit of a father figure, to the main character, but about what is the greater good. Because he feels he is acting nobly, but he has to sacrifice a few people. So do you know the thought experiment, the trolley experiment, where so it's sort of like an ethical dilemma in which you are in control of a steam train, let's say, and the steam train has veers off into two, and you are in control of which way it goes.
Yeah.
If you did nothing at all, it would stay in the one direction and it would run over someone.
Okay.
However, if you made a choice, so it would run over like 5 people, let's say. However, if you pulled it and it turned, there's only one person in the way. Right. But it would be an active choice of you having to pull something to kill one, you would have killed that one person.
Right.
If you did nothing, more people would have died. So for the greater good, you could act to kill someone, but by that saving 5 people.
Yeah.
And then what if you can add stuff on that? Is like, what if that one person was someone you knew? What if that one person was your parent or your child or something like that?
Yeah.
How many people counts which you would make that active decision?
Yeah.
So it's that sort of thought experiment, and I think this distills the premise of this.
Yeah.
Because there are two separate sort of denouements in which someone is about to kill someone else. You've got Tom Cruise about to kill Leo Peck to avenge his son, and then you've got Burgess trying to kill Tom Cruise. Max von Sydow's trying to kill Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And at both of those, they are determining whether pre-crime is a valid option. Because pre-crime, you're assuming, has actually saved lots of people's lives.
Yes. And chances are it probably has.
Probably has done, exactly. And it's so, but a few people have been wrongly convicted because of it, or potentially could have had a free choice in it.
Yeah.
By not killing them, you're exposing that as being a inherently bad system, and more people will die in the future because of murder. However, if you kill him, you're killing someone. It's the trolley problem, and that is the basis of the whole movie, I think.
Yeah. So remember when he is conducting and putting all of those images together?
Yeah.
You remember someone says when they were explaining to Colin Farrell, who's come to sort of observe, someone describes that as scrubbing the image. That's an editing term.
Is it an editing term?
Yes. Because it is very filmy, what he's doing, isn't he? He's putting together a sequence of images to make a story, essentially.
I wonder how Michael Kahn actually edited that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Sort of as part of that, it's also not really like judge, jury, and sort of executioner. It's like the precog's vision is still very much only open to interpretation by Tom Cruise.
Absolutely.
It's a one-man army, isn't it? It's a one-man...
Every time people say that, I just think of Hot Fuzz. He's not Judge, Judy, and executioner, he's my dad.
When's your birthday? 29th of January. What year? Every year. Okay,
let's move on before we just descend into Hot Fuzz quotes.
Again, it couldn't work because it's open far too much to interpretation.
Yeah.
Also along these lines, at the point when the blonde man, who's sort of like the second in command.
Oh, the guy. I
very bright blue eyes.
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers? Okay.
Yeah, I recognise him from there.
At the point when he sort of like... do you remember he sort of corners him in an alley?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, slow down, chief. And then Tom Cruise is like, everybody runs. That's sort of the first point.
Sounded very masculine there. I loved it.
That's the first point where Tom Cruise could say, like, don't you realise, like, I'm the exception. I know my...
Yeah.
I know the crime I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And not only, like, was I, like, not close to doing it.
Yeah.
You could say almost for certain, if you arrest me at this point, I was not going to do it. It would not happen.
Yeah.
So it was a very strong case, which you would imagine would stand up in a court of law.
Yeah. You've really got bogged down in the details of the judicial system, haven't you?
Yeah.
You just hope you'd hope for a sympathetic judge, I guess.
Yeah, you would. Yeah. Also, what I see almost as like the biggest hole in the plot. Can you guess what?
So, okay, I can tell you the biggest hole I thought in the plot.
Okay.
So, they're trying to find out where Tom Cruise is. This is the bit that bugged me the most. Maybe not the big plot hole.
Okay.
But they're trying to find out where Tom Cruise is. And they're like, well, they've got to interpret the visions coming from Agatha's brain. They need a machine to do that, like the machines we've got. And then they open up a machine, and the guy's driving license is in there saying, hi, my name's Reg, and I made this machine. No computer, like if you open up your Apple Mac, it's not going to have like Steve Jobs' driving license on it.
That's very true.
Yeah. Like why is that ID in the keyboard?
That was a small plot hole. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the one that bugged me the most.
Yeah.
What's your plot hole?
My big plot hole,
yeah,
which kind of annoys me every time I watch this film.
Yes.
It's already well established that Tom Cruise's son was abducted.
Yes.
And then he is shown a precognitive vision of a man that he was going to kill. And he says, I do not know this man. Essentially, why would I want to kill that man? Why would he not make the connection that this guy abducted his son?
Until like a minute before.
Until a minute before.
Yeah.
Hang on. What are all these pictures?
Well, the guy's...
One of them's my son.
Hey,
maybe I will kill this person. Hang Hang on, why did I not think of that?
Hey, stress does a lot to the human brain, doesn't it? He's just been implicated in a murder. He's on the run. He's pretty stressed out. He's had his eyes taken out. Give the guy a break.
Okay.
Although he does have 12 hours of being in a blindfold to think about it.
Very true.
That's true. I sometimes do my best thinking with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe that is a problem.
But I just don't see why you wouldn't question it.
Yeah.
Of all the people in all the world, just to really sound like Humphrey Bogart there.
Of all the people in all the world.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. Why would he not assume it was the person who abducted his kid?
Yeah.
Why would he have reason to kill anyone else?
Yeah, I guess so. Should we talk about the ending?
Yes, just before we get there.
Oh, okay.
Very, very, very close towards it. Did you think the lighting of Samantha Morton, who looked particularly sort of Oracle-like, right before we get into the actual ending, looked very E.T.-esque?
She did. Don't be mean to Samantha Morton.
No, much prettier than E.T. But I mean being backlit.
Yeah.
Glowing light.
She did. They did a very good job of making her look alien, didn't they?
Yeah.
Just the way she held herself, the body, like the sort of the floppiness.
If I saw just that one shot and someone said, and I hadn't seen the film, who do you think made this movie?
Yeah.
Hands down, to put Spielberg's name at the top.
Sure. I don't understand why Samantha Morton isn't in more things. She's great in this.
Yeah, she is very good.
She's so good, and
It's a tough character. It's
a really tough character, but she doesn't really have much dialogue that is coherent. But she manages to convey so much empathy.
She imparts enough wisdom to keep the mystery going, doesn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the other Spielbergy themes in this, I mentioned this briefly, is so again, it's like a checklist for every single film. We've got sort of a bit of a broken family dynamic, and we've got the father figure who is very much here played by Max von Sydow.
Yeah,
and if you know this is a Spielberg film, and if you know any of its previous movies, you will know that anyone who's a father is going to turn out to be a bit of a bad egg.
Yeah.
Later on. So, and this very much fulfills the prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, when I'm going to save this, but I'm going to drop the hint to remind you.
Yeah.
When this whole project started.
Yeah.
Remember I told you that there was a little added twist to the life of Steven Spielberg to do with father figures. And I'm going to reveal that next time when we do Catch Me If You Can, because I feel like that's the most appropriate place.
Okay, perfect.
But just to drop that little Easter egg there.
I look forward to it. Yeah.
Just remember, a twist is coming.
You mysterious man, you.
So, also in terms of themes, water is a big theme.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Yeah. Charles is abducted at a swimming pool. The three precogs are in a sort of milky...
What do you know what it's called? Photon milk.
Photon milk.
Apparently. I just picked that up. I was just like, that sounds disgusting.
Yes, it does. It sounds like something, birth-like, doesn't it? I think that's the idea, actually, because the shape of it is like a womb, isn't it?
No. No, it's not.
It is.
It's not like a womb.
It is.
No, it's like a... No, I know what they look like. I guess so. I guess anatomically it doesn't actually look like that. So I guess you could make an argument that if you look at it hard enough, it does look a little bit like it. Yes, water and the sort of photon milk, whatever that is.
Yeah. And then it's so you have the abduction, and to some extent it's the prison, isn't it, that the precogs are in. Mm-hmm. So it's not really associated with good things, water.
No, absolutely. And also, you got that scene where he's blindfolded and he's being detected by the spiders. Yes. And he's submerged in the water.
Yes.
And then that tiny little bubble of air comes out from his nostril.
Yeah.
And the spiders detect it. I did like the spiders because I thought they had a little bit of personality to them.
Yeah.
Apparently, they were going to do a CGI bubble, but Tom Cruise, being the hero he is, thought, nah, I can do it myself. And made that little bubble that came out to the surface. That was all him.
The benefit of having a larger nose.
Yeah, exactly. Any other Spielberg themes that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, well, not particularly Spielbergian, but there is a theme of keep running.
Yeah, keep running.
Repeat that as a motif a lot.
And then I really like that Samantha Morton, run! Right at the end. Yeah.
I was very aware when she was shouting, run! That so many people's veins in their face and neck pop out in this movie.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. And not just when Tom Cruise puts that needle or whatever it is, jolts the bottom of his jaw, and his face goes all mushy.
Yeah.
The veins is in his head, and a whole bunch of times, like when he takes the drug. It goes through, and it just the veins in his forehead.
That's acting. Such good acting.
It is.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis is a very good vein actor.
Vein actor.
Yeah. I've abandoned my child. I've abandoned my child. I couldn't look at anything else apart from his veins. Yeah, and then
throbbing veins in a dick movie.
And of course, it's got a typical Spielberg happy ending.
It was quite happy endings.
And then scissors. Maybe we shouldn't mention scissors right after that, but scissors are a bit of a theme as well.
What else was scissors in apart from the beginning bit?
Well, just mainly the beginning bit.
You heard it here first. What film criticism from us?
It's only in the first 20 minutes. Oh yeah, it's a massive motif.
Massive theme. Right, can we actually talk about the end sequence?
Right, yes, let's get on to it.
Right, okay, so what we'll explain it. So what happens is he gets arrested for the murder of Leo Crow. Is it Leo Crow?
Yeah, the pre-murder.
When what really happened is that Leo Crow actually killed himself using his gun.
Yes, because he was able to resist his preordained intent on murdering him.
Yeah. And then he also gets framed by Burgess for the murder of Colin Farrell's character as well.
Yes.
And he subsequently gets arrested, and they put on this thing which they do when they arrest people, which is sort of like this headband.
Yeah, which turns you into sort of a coma.
Into coma, yeah, exactly. You see it being used on the first, Harold, the first guy, and a lot of focus on the camera is kept on this as well. So you see that being put on him, and then he gets put in the prison, which is run by, what's his name? I want to say Tim Berners-Lee, but he invented the internet. The guy from Oh Brother, Tim Blake Nelson.
Yeah.
Tim Blake Nelson. He get the place there, Tim Blake Nelson, the prison for all the pre-murder murderers are kept. And he says, it's you actually have really vivid dreams.
Yeah, I wrote that down because this comes into a lot of people's argument against for a particular theory with the ending, which is it's actually kind of a rush that you have visions, that all your dreams come true.
Yeah. And then we have the final denouement in which his wife has something to do, works out that he was actually framed by Burgess, manages somehow, using his old eyeballs, to get in access to the prison because there's only one security guard there, and then free Tom Cruise, and then Tom Cruise leaks all Agatha's footage, which implicates Burgess in many of the murders, including the murder of Agatha's parents.
Yeah.
And then
Agatha's mother, who is Anne Lively.
Exactly, the one who
was the mysterious
case that they couldn't solve.
Yeah.
And
because
then
he has the guy who, the Oh Brother, the actor,
Tim Blake Nelson.
Tim Blake Nelson he's got a lot of the best lines in the movie. I also love the line, "You dig up the past, all you get is dirty."
Yeah. It's the way he says it though, isn't it? he's got a great voice.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the most Spielbergy montage in the history of Spielberg. You know, he does the thing where everything works out nicely in the end. So he gets back together with his wife, and the wife's pregnant as well with a new baby, and everything's happy, and
the precogs get to live their life in peace.
Exactly, and the score is really, really super orchestral, and everything's happy. There's lots of violins and all that.
Yeah,
and Tom Cruise is speaking in voiceover, which he's never done before in the movie.
This is since the headpiece is put on and he's turned into this sort of coma.
Yeah,
is when sort of it feels almost as if the wife starts talking almost in voiceover because we see flashbacks, etc. And then Tom Cruise takes over when he's speaking to Lamar through an earpiece.
Yeah,
but it definitely is verging on breaking the rule of show don't tell.
Yeah, exactly.
He is telling you exactly what happens, exactly like the detectives, like we were saying.
So this is the denouement scene, the ballroom scene where he explains the plot to everyone. I think you've alluded to the fact that there's a lot of theories about this. I hadn't read any of this stuff before, but for me, seeing it, I thought you could read it in two ways. One, you could read it in a very happy ending, yes, it all happened, or you can read it as soon as that hairband coma thing, technical term, gets put on Tom Cruise, that's his story, and everything subsequent to that is him imagining
Yeah.
a happy ending and having a vivid dream. And he catches the bad guy, he settles down with his wife, he has a new kid.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it just seems too convenient.
That's the main theory.
Yeah.
And that's why people put a lot of emphasis on it's actually kind of a rush, that you have visions, that all your dreams come true.
Yeah.
That is actually the last line of Tom Cruise's real life. He remains in a coma.
Yeah.
Which I remember when we did the AI episode.
Yeah.
Do you remember we both felt, and I've always felt this about
it should have ended
with him at the bottom of the ocean looking at the blue fairy.
Yes.
And the rest could be a vision that he's seeing as he's malfunctioning, as his power is winding down.
And it's so strange that this followed this directly. There was a space of must have been 6 months, 7 months or so between the two releases.
I don't think I would have made the connection.
Not be watching them back to back.
If we were not watching them back to back. But now it seems so obvious.
It's the same. It's just the same.
Yeah. And it's interesting that we feel it's a criticism of AI.
Mm-hmm.
It seems odd because it makes it feel as if Spielberg felt like it really worked to the extent he's replicated it almost verbatim. Like that sort of. Do you think he's just trying to do this whole keep in a sort of ambiguous ending, but just not quite getting it right?
The thing is, I think Spielberg. I don't know, but I think Spielberg made this ending purposefully ambiguous. I think he tacked on the ending for AI just because he didn't feel the story should end there. He felt he didn't want any ambiguity. He wanted Haley Joel Osment to live, and he wanted him to be resurrected in the future.
Or Kubrick wanted that.
Or Kubrick wanted it, or both.
Or both.
So I think, but this one, I think, because he didn't have the weight of Kubrick's vision over his shoulder for this, he was happy to make the story how he wanted. And I think, although there is a very Spielbergy ending, it's so Spielbergy, it's so sentimental, and it's so on the nose.
Yeah.
And feels so...
It feels rushed, doesn't it?
That, in my mind, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last sort of what do you think it is for the last 15 or 20 minutes?
Yeah.
From that phone call and all that stuff. That's a whole movie sort of in itself. It feels like it's really right. Like, that could be another 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And they definitely should have developed the wife character a lot more. I suppose...
Because her only development comes potentially in a dream sequence. So realistically, the character has absolutely no development whatsoever.
I suppose looking back, but it certainly isn't obvious. Remember when he meets the wise old lady in the greenhouse, and she says the female is the stronger of the... Is the wisest of...
No, stronger.
Stronger of...
Pick. They are.
You know, I suppose you could say, okay, fine, that's a precursor to...
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's going to happen with, the wife's going to take charge.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite work. It feels quite tacked on, doesn't it?
Mm.
Well, the handling of it is...
But it's interesting that you say that it could have gone on for a bit longer, because one of our main criticisms of Spielberg throughout this entire time is his lack of brevity, his inability to finish a movie in under 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think if you accept it's a dream sequence, then it can feel rushed, because... what are dreams but fragments of vision here there that can jump, that don't really obey many rules. They can time jump, that's fine. Whereas if you're actually telling that as a story, you're right, you'll need to draw that out a little bit.
There's still another plot hole in the screenplay which I just don't feel quite gets answered, which is, how does Lamar, so the old bad guy, how does he know that it's John who finds out about and solves the Anne Lively case?
This is the problem that I was thinking about.
Why him? Why John?
Yeah, because the implication is he sets up John and sets up the evidence and pays this guy to take the fall.
Which would take a lot of pre-planning.
A lot of pre-planning, and apparently it's only 36 hours that he gets, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, why can't the precog see a bit further back so they can see...
Yeah, so they can see Lamar
talking
to Crow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also, I struggle with that, because in my mind, he only found out about the Anne Lively stuff, or he would have only looked into the Anne Lively stuff after he got implicated for murder.
Yeah.
If he saw it beforehand, he wouldn't have looked into it too much. But then he got... But I may have got the timings wrong.
Okay.
Because can you remember, did he go... Oh, no, you're right. No. He did go to the prison to see Tim Blake Nelson and find out that Agatha... Stream had been deleted before,
and one of the brothers too.
And one of the brothers.
There's only one. There would normally be 3 streams, wouldn't there?
Was there 2? Okay.
2 were missing.
Oh, were there? Okay.
And he took the final one, which was just one of the brothers, which is weaker than...
Fine, okay. So that did happen beforehand. And then he goes to Burgess. And then Burgess must be like going, oh my God, he's found out. And then the logistics to organise all of that in the next 24 hours must have been an absolute nightmare.
Well, I suppose Leo Crow said he just got a phone call, didn't he? But how do you put all of that system in place to...
To be fair, we've got none of the resources that he has, do we?
No.
It'd be an absolute nightmare for us. But he's got some resources.
To put that much infrastructure around the one guy, which you cannot be certain is the guy who can implement you in a murder.
Yeah, true. I hope you enjoyed it. I really like Minority Report, and I won't leave it as long to watch it again.
Yeah, I think it's good fun.
It is good fun. I think it's
a brain teaser.
It's going to hold up there when we get to the end of this as probably one of my favourites.
Yeah,
overall. We will see you next week when we're talking about Catch Me If You Can. And so I hope you can join us then. As always, you can follow us on at Big Boat Podcast. So please follow us on Twitter. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Bigger Boat Podcast. You can email us on
thebiggerboatpodcast@gmail.com.
Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on whatever media you listen to us on. That would be great. We'll see you next week. So, bye.
Bye.